Hello. Thank you all so much for having me here. I feel egregiously unqualified to be standing in front of you because I dropped out of the University of Connecticut after 2 semesters. So I'm probably the least educated person here. But if I weren't a musician, I would want to be an architect. In fact, a few years ago I did this strange, colloquium with Bernard Schumi. And the idea was to talk about the ways in which music and architecture relate to each other. And after talking for a while, we realized that there really are no ways in which music and architecture relate to each other. But it made me, in fact, I guess the only relationship they have is they have nothing to do with one another. Because music is like just purely ephemeral and has absolutely no structure, and architecture is all structure. And that's why I'm so jealous of architects, because as architects you get to make, it's the only art form that people can't ignore when they close their eyes. You know, like if you have a painting or a sculpture or a photograph, if you don't like it, you can put it in the back room or the closet. If you have a building that you don't like, it's still there. And I also love the fact that architecture impacts every aspect of a person's life. The utility is so broad, and I find, as a musician, I'm a little jealous of that. Because like if I write a happy song, someone plays it for 3 minutes every couple of months. And if you make a happy bathroom, someone experiences it 5 or 6 times a day, whether they like it or not. And I moved to LA, I'm going to try not to talk too long, but I moved to LA a couple of years ago, and honestly, one of the reasons I moved here is because the architecture here is such a shit show. In the best possible way. Like, I grew up in Connecticut and New York, where the architecture, I find it like, it's nice, like architecture in New York, it's like there are 3 buildings. There's the tall buildings and the short buildings, and then the other short buildings. And they're all kind of the same, they've all been documented a million times, and they're all pretty. And they've all been on postcards. Whereas here, it's this sort of like Byzantine world of strange domestic architecture. And the fact that it's also in a weird way so egalitarian. Like there's no other city in the Western world where someone can just build a house. When was the last time in New York or London or San Francisco or Paris where you heard of someone buying land and building a house? Like this is really the only city where people still do that. And granted, 90% of what gets built are awful beige monstrosities. But in between those beige monstrosities, there's some of the most inspiring architecture I've seen in the Western world, and so I have all of you to thank for that, for keeping me entertained. I just saw a house today. My friend Julie and I pretended that I wanted to buy it, which is deceitful because I don't. It was a Spanish house from 1910, and the woman who owned it was friends with Neutra, so she got Neutra to build another house on top of it. So the ground floor, Spanish house, top floor, beautiful Bauhaus-inspired Neutra. Where else in the world could that exist? And also, where else in the world would that not have been torn down? Like, if that was New York, it'd be a Bank of America and a nail salon.